So you want to communicate. Most people use something like this. This is a Xiaomi smartphone. It connects to a 3G or 4G or LTE or 5G network, and it basically allows you to communicate, talk, or share multimedia stuff with anyone else on the planet who has one of these. However, these things have an Achilles heel. They require connection to an extensive network of basically cellular towers to be able to communicate at all. If you were to go somewhere without cellular coverage, or if it were to go down in your area for some reason, these become bricks. They become useless as communication devices. If you still want to be able to communicate in those circumstances, you will need to rely on one of these. This is a Baofeng VHF or UHF radio. It works great in the absence of any infrastructure. It just requires another guy to have this, and you can basically communicate with that guy, provided that that guy is within the radio reception range. If you need to communicate with beyond line of sight range, then you will need to rely on repeater stations, and typically you'll need a ham license to access those anywhere in the world. So yeah. But at the end of the day, these two do different things. They allow you to communicate under different circumstances. However, they are still two devices. And if you're going somewhere or going on a hiking trip, camping trip, or whatever, bringing two devices with you can be a bit inconvenient. So, is there a device that combines the functions of both of these? Well, there is. Let me show you. This is a Huawei or TD Tech, same company, EP821 Pro. Basically, this is an Android smartphone with all the Android smartphone features that you will expect, namely 3G or 4G or LTE connectivity, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, regular cellular calling, regular cellular, text messaging. So it has all that, and you can also use it as basically a public network radio by going into Zello. So yeah, it has the public network functionality as well. I mean, a public network radio functionality. So.
Public network radio functionality.
Yep. So Zello works, and also you can basically go into any Android app you want. Any Android app that will run on an Android smartphone, this thing will run it. This is by all intents and purposes an Android smartphone. However, in addition to all of those Android smartphone things that you've seen earlier, this can also, boom, let me tap it in, do direct radio transmission mode. And it's called a DMR, direct mode operations. And this is basically the UHF radio part of the phone. And let me just demonstrate it. That's me pressing the push to talk. How many cell phones can do that? Can go on to Discord, spam memes, and then just straight away press the push to talk and talk to other people with UHF radios. How many smartphones can do that? But yeah, that's the awesome part of it. Now for some downsides. Well, it has a UHF radio, and it has both analog and digital encoding or modulation. However, you can only really set the frequency and set the deviation and set the continuous tone squelch code, the privacy tone code. However, that's pretty much it. You cannot scan on it. You do not have access to anything other than the 70 centimeter UHF band, which is a shame. However, as a Android, for what it is, that's already pretty amazing. You can basically have a cell phone to go out with you, and once you lose cellular connection, you can basically just use this to talk on UHF to other people with walkie-talkies, and basically all walkie-talkies out there are UHF, or at least have access to the UHF band. So this phone definitely has use cases. Now that we've talked about the use cases that we have for this phone, let me talk about what it's actually originally meant for. So let me just go into the network mode, and now, okay, so this phone has 3 principal RF operating modes. So notice how I was on Wi-Fi just now because I'm on direct mode. And when I'm on direct mode, I do not have access to 4G or 3G connectivity. This phone is basically, it can only operate on one mode at a time. So if you're using a UHF radio, the cellular parts of it go down, and you have to use Wi-Fi to basically connect to the internet. So let me just switch over to public network, and this is the 4G 3G connectivity mode, the cellular connectivity mode. That's pretty slow, but yeah, that's what basically public network is. It's basically 3G 4G LTE. Direct mode is basically the UHF radio. Now let's talk about trunk mode. Trunk mode is what this radio was originally meant to do. So trunking, or 3G or LTE or 4G trunking, is basically using a 4G or LTE network to communicate on a very secure corporate or government network. To put it into perspective, how when you're communicating or you're sending data through a 4G network, it is your ISP or your data service provider that's doing all the the switching, that's connecting you to other devices, and that's also handling the relaying of your data. However, when you're on trunk mode, or when you're in a trunked network, everything is encrypted. And the only thing that your data service provider or your 4G tower or 4G network will do is basically relay your encrypted transmissions to a central corporate or government server network or network controller. And it is that network controller that knows where to relay your data to, what device to relay your data to, and it's that network that will know what it is that you're sending, because that way no one outside your organization or outside your trunk network will know who you're talking to or know what you're talking about or what you're sending, what's the data you're sending, because everything in the trunk network is encrypted in a way that only people or the network controller inside the trunk network will know what's going on. So basically, trunk network mode is a ultra secure way to communicate via 3G or 4G or cellular, and that even something like the Russian military uses the Aerophone network. That's basically 4G LTE trunking, and yeah, they basically entrust that method of encrypting and trunking network enough to basically communicate super secret military secrets on through that method. So yeah, that's basically it. And unfortunately, I won't be able to demonstrate it here because in order to use trunk mode, I need to be part of a trunk network, which I am not. And in this phone, this either comes in the form of a corporate login, which I don't have, or a SIM card, or a special SIM card that you insert into this phone. So yeah. All right, so that's basically the basic functions of the phone explained, and yeah. Well, other creature comforts that you would expect from a smartphone, it has a camera, which is cool, front and rear camera. So let me just duck my face out of the way so I don't dox myself. Boop. Yep, it has both front and rear camera. And yeah. So yeah, that's it. What other? Yeah, it has, and we already mentioned that it has access to all the usual Android apps. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty nice. Now, so let's talk about the actual hardware of the phone then. All right, so let's start talking about the actual hardware of this phone. So the most remarkable thing is it's IP68 dust-proof and completely waterproof. It's submersible. You can dunk it in water and just leave it there and not care. It's also shockproof, and it's basically built to MIL STD 810G standards. So that's pretty cool. It has physical buttons, which is a thing that I quite enjoy that's lacking from most modern smartphones. It has front and rear camera, as mentioned earlier. And it has push to talk and 2 multifunction buttons. And usually on smartphones, it has volume up and down as well as a power button. However, what sets this phone apart is it has no charging port. You will need a special charger that came in the box. And I'm just show it to you guys. Yeah. You'll need this to charge your phone. This is the charger that came with it, and there's no other way that I can think of that you can charge this phone. So you need the charger. You can't just, plug it into USB and have it charged. So yeah, there's that. But the good thing is this phone, which is a feature that I really enjoy. Let me just turn my phone off before I actually pull the battery out. But yes. Come on, shut the fuck down. There we go. But basically, this phone has removable batteries, and in the box they give you 2, and that's pretty awesome. And the charger, you basically plug it into a DC jack, and it can charge. What was it? I think it has a. Let me see what it is again. Oh yeah. So it can basically charge it can fast charge at 18 watts. So, and it can do that to simultaneously to both the battery. You can just, slot the battery in and it will charge that at 18 watts. Or you can also, slot your phone in and it also charge that as well at 18 watts simultaneously. So that's pretty cool. Now, to actually take the battery out, you basically, and it's actually pretty simple to do so, you basically just flick the switch and the battery just unhinges. Super easy. And you can see the waterproofing seal around the battery contacts, as well as the waterproof SIM tray and SD card. And this will take a 128 gig SD card. So yeah. And yeah, the 128 gig SD card slot is pretty important because this phone only really has 32 gigs of storage, which is, it might have been nice in 2018 when this phone came out. And it's actually definitely more than enough for people using this in a professional capacity. But for us, it's 32 gigs is definitely not enough. So that is a welcome bonus. And yeah, on the subject of the SIM card, it takes a public SIM, which is, your regular SIM card that you put in your cell phone, and it takes a TMO SIM, and TMO is a trunking mode SIM, and that is a SIM card that enables this phone access to the super secret, super secure trunking network that I talked about earlier. So yeah. All right. So yeah, let me just reinstall the battery. Yeah. Just basically goes in like that, then clicks into place. Excellent. Now, I restart my phone. Okay. Now, one last thing. Oh yeah, on top we have, let's just work our way from left to right. You have an antenna that uses a SMA port. So you basically can swap this out with any Baofeng antenna. You can swap this out with, something like one of those super long Abri antennas. It'll work. And this is a SOS button, and I'm not gonna press it because when this will basically transmit on the trunk network, which fortunately I don't have access to, and it will make an annoying noise. So yeah, this is your SOS or emergency transmission button. So yeah, not gonna touch that. All right. So now that is done, boom. One last feature to talk about. This is the only connectivity port that you have on this phone. That's it. And interestingly, this is an HDMI port. And the only two accessories that will connect to this phone I know of is number one, a HDMI to USB port that will allow you to basically connect this to your PC to download, offload stuff or whatever. And I've ordered one, it has yet to arrive. And the other accessory that I know of is this weird fucking thing. Boom. This is a 720p HD video camera that supposedly is a f1.2 and has low light capability, but it's only marginally better than what's on the phone. And it connects to the phone basically via an HDMI port. And yeah, you can also connect to this and it also work with your PC, but it's built for this phone. And it's just weird. It's just really weird. I've seen other EP821 models, not the Pro one. The EP821, what was it? The C or D, that will basically have a 3.5mm jack and a USB-C port. And I think that would be a lot more practical than this. But for some reason, enterprise and government users deem it necessary to put what is basically a HDMI webcam onto their super secure trunking phone for some reason. All right, I'm just you basically just plug it in, install it that way, and let me just show you it in action. And the only way to access that camera is via the video sending app. And yeah, let me just show you it in action. Yeah, and basically just yeah. So yeah, you can basically just use this little webcam to do, live super secure conferencing, or, and they also, the kit that this comes with also gives you a head mount or a wrist mount so that you can, basically live stream whatever industrial or super secret shit that you're doing. So yeah, that's pretty cool. All right. So that's pretty much it. This phone, no USB, no headphone jack, only HDMI port, and you need to charge it using a specialized charger. So yeah, that's pretty much the downsides of it. But despite all its drawbacks, it's actually pretty awesome and I dare say pretty unique. I don't really think there is another phone that is IP68 rated that can simultaneously do, Wi-Fi and direct UHF radio, and can also connect to regular cellular networks, and can also do trunking all in one. There are radios out there. There are consumer, smartphones out there that can also do UHF, but they're not as well as they're definitely not as well built as this. And the ones that I know of, they're definitely not IP68. So yeah. So should you get this phone? If you can have access to it, definitely. However, the unfortunate thing is this is a made for corporate order sort of thing. And that means you won't find this on retail. You won't find this on eBay. You won't find this, being sold by Huawei or TD Tech in a retail capacity. However, you will be able to find it pretty cheap on Xianyu. That's basically where companies that have ordered this or no longer need them, or basically orders that were canceled, and the manufacturer basically are just offloading them on Xianyu for cheap. And this phone, I got this for a price that's lower than most flagship. I'll say this. I got this at a price that is lower than all flagship smartphones and all branded smartphones. That's how cheap it was. Unfortunately, because it's sold in that capacity and because it uses a specialized lithium battery, I won't be able to, ship these out. So, and I don't really think you can actually you'll find sellers that are willing to ship these out either, because these are just such niche devices, and they have lithium batteries which require special, e-commerce licenses to ship. So that's the downsides of it. Yeah, before we end, let me just show you the box it came in. It's basically this, pretty much all the things that are useful I've already taken out of the box, so there's just empty shit in here. Yep, it's basically how it arrives. One box for the charger and the batteries, one box for the phone and the accessories, and yeah. That's pretty much it. Little sticker at the back, a little label. This phone was originally meant for a customer in Indonesia, but for some reason didn't reach him. And I got it instead for cheap. And this is the little cheap USB webcam it came in. And yeah, this is not a good camera. I mean, in terms of resolution, the one on the phone is better. And in terms of low light, it's definitely... It's barely better than the one on the phone, and it definitely doesn't perform to the level of, something like a modern flagship smartphone. So, but at least it's less than 100 yuan for this thing. So, people just didn't want it. So, there's that. Not even sure what the use case for it is, but yeah, you can, I guess it does have a valid use case, because in the box they also give you a head mount and a little wrist mount. So basically you can attach this camera to your head and live stream whatever you're doing, like GoPro style, through a super secure trunked network or via a public network, whatever suits you. But yeah. But the only app on that phone that will connect to this camera is their proprietary video conferencing app. I'll just send it. The only app that on this phone that will work with it is this. So, and this is a video secure teleconferencing app. Something like the regular phone app and the regular camera app and all the other Instagram, whatever, they won't connect to that camera. So. Yeah, use case of this thing, pretty limited. Alright, so that's pretty much it. And one last thing. I did test out the camera on this phone. So let me just, before I show you the clips, let me just say a few things about it. It is decent enough in highlight. It's definitely serviceable as a smartphone camera. This is, after all, a Huawei smartphone. However, I don't think it's actually using any of those Japanese sensors. I think this may be a Chinese CMOS sensor in here, but for what it is, it's actually taking really good pictures and really good video in highlight. However, in low light, it does not compete. It doesn't even come close to competing with the low light performance of a modern flagship smartphone camera. So there is that. Don't have too high hopes for this camera. This is basically just an industrial use camera. And the front camera, same story. It's it's not shit, but it's also not exceptional. And yeah, that's pretty much all the cell phone features of this phone. It's not an exceptionally good smartphone, but it is unique in the way that it's IP68 and it has, UHF radio. So yeah, now let me just show you the clips.